The regular season is around the corner. We've got Royce here with us. We are looking ahead. Plus, we've got what's on tap for this team coming down the line. Let's get right to it. It's the Thunder Basketball Universe.
This is Josh Giddy, and you're listening to the Thunder Basketball Universe.
Welcome into the Thunder Basketball Universe, presented by COOP Ale Works. In the words of Mark Dagnall, in terms of, are we ready for the regular season on a scale of 1 to 10? We're at a 10, including the Thunder Basketball Universe podcast crew. Preseason is over. The regular season is now right around the corner, and we have a special guest with us here today to help us get ready for the regular season, and that's Royce Young, a friend of the pod at this point. Royce, welcome to the new studio. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? This is kind of
This
nice.
is pretty slick. I do appreciate that I'm forever a special guest in every
Yes,
regard.
yeah.
I think I'm a special guest in my own house at this point. This is sweet, though. I mean, this is pretty awesome. We were discussing whose shoes those might be. A lot of fun old callbacks to old Thunder players. So, but this studio is pretty slick. It's exciting to be with you guys.
Most of all, just as we start the new season of Thunder basketball, coming sort of out of COVID, it just felt like we can't do this over Zoom anymore.
No,
we've got to find a place.
Seeing
in the Thunder
faces
offices.
and sitting next to people is really a much more enjoyable way to do a podcast.
It's a whole different experience.
Yeah. Well, Royce, you got to join all of us in Tulsa and in OKC, and we're around other people and faces and whatnot.
Exactly.
So just what have you thought about, being back in the mix and seeing fans back in the building and all of that?
I mean, it couldn't be better. And, going to an arena last season, while I think it'll be something that we all kind of reflect on as like, wow, that was a moment to go to NBA games with 0 people in the arena. I do think it kind of, now you don't take for granted the atmosphere that is generated at an NBA game, even a preseason NBA game. I mean, we know that Thunder fans are great. And really, especially the crowd in Tulsa, like got loud at some moments.
They sure did.
And just kind of feeling that energy from a crowd. I mean, it's what makes sports fun. I mean, and whether you go to a football game, a baseball game, NBA game, whatever it is, when you're in the moment and you kind of feel the energy of everybody together, that was really cool. And it's always fun to go see the Thunder kind of quote unquote on the road, whether it's somewhere like Tulsa or somewhere in another state, but to kind of see everybody come together and watch OKC is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the play that stands out to me from the Tulsa game was Poku, like hustling from one side of the floor to the other just to deflect a ball to keep a possession alive. And like in an empty gym, that play doesn't mean nearly the same as what it means when the crowd is recognizing that moment and swelling to that moment to kind of provide that extra juice. So it's a totally different deal that happens.
And like the crowd can ebb and flow in like the correct way.
Yeah.
Which you appreciate every arena that tried to kind of do the fake crowd noise and kind of try to create that kind of ambient environment. But like it became this white noise that would almost drive you insane when you just kind of hear it throughout the game. And they would kind of raise the levels at times, but like an actual human crowd knows when to respond to like the big moments. And that play, Poku's awesome. Give and go with JRE was really cool. And like, you just the kind of like the build up and then the roar. I mean, those types of things are really awesome to hear.
And it was an overtime game, which was already exciting in itself. But to have that with an actual crowd just made it so much sweeter. And Royce, you actually got a chance to be a part of the live stream of that game. What was that like? You and Gallo, the dynamic duo.
Yeah, Gallo took it easy on me. He didn't make me look too bad. Didn't show me up too much with his impressive TV chops. But no, that was awesome. I'm really looking forward to being part of the broadcast this year. I mean, Thunder broadcast, I've watched it myself for a long, long time, and I've always admired it and enjoyed it. So it's going to be really fun to be part of it, whether that's pre-games, half-times, whatever it might be. But hopefully Gallo will tone it down a little.
Yeah.
Let me tee me up and let me have some moments.
ISO, clear out for Royce. The thing that was impressive about what Royce did on that broadcast was, for the live stream, we could only have so many people that could have the producer who's back in the truck in our ears. Royce did not have our producer, Steve Melton, in his ear. So he's really kind of flying blind during that.
All I could literally hear was the Thunder drummers.
Yeah.
That's literally all I could hear.
When Royce, when you used to do hits for ESPN, you had somebody in your ear talking to you. And so you held your own, though, just kind of letting, just playing off of me. And we figured it out. And You didn't run us past commercial.
I was nervous about that.
You just got us where we needed to go.
I was
So it
waiting for
great.
you to like elbow me in the face or something to tell me to shut up, because I do have a tendency to ramble a little bit. But I think we got through. We did have a long time to fill, which
we did. Yeah.
Which
that's the beauty of a live stream.
Yeah. Which honestly, to me, it was kind of like this. It was
Right.
kind of like, kind of podcasty, which is I think an area that I do a little bit better at when I don't have a hard out. When it's like, hey, would you shut up, please?
That's one of the hardest aspects of Paris and I's job as sideline reporters for our Bally Sports broadcast is you have 15 to 20 seconds typically to tell a story or deliver a quote or link a stat to a quote or an anecdote, and you got to get in and out before the free throws are over.
Yeah,
or before the ball gets across.
Just trying to wrap it up really fast.
Yeah,
and
and so it's a really tough balance as you're like learning this to you have this urge to like let the viewer know everything that you know, because that's our job as reporters, is like, let's be the conduit to the fans of what we know. But at some point, you're giving people way too much information in way too small of a time.
That was always super stressful for me when I would do a live shot, is when the producer would jump in and be like, rap. And you'd be like, I don't know where I'm ending this.
Yeah, right.
And you just like, I'm supposed to.
There's
I'm supposed
going
to
to
stop
be
talking.
so much on the cutting room floor right now.
And you have this urge to be like, and that's all I got.
Royce Young in Oklahoma City.
They're telling me to rap.
I have to go. Goodbye.
Well, how about this? Let's keep this conversation going, Royce. And you talked about flying blind a little bit in the live stream. We're going to keep you in the dark here for a little bit. We're going to play a couple of games that we have on this podcast. So much fun. The first one is called You Can Shay That Again. We're going to give you a quote from over kind of like the past week from the team.
All right.
And you have to guess which player said what quote.
I feel like I'm going to, like, if I don't pass my test, it's going to be like an indictment on me. Wait, you don't remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yep. Oh.
Where were you that day?
I feel like these will actually be pretty good.
Okay.
I think you'll
probably be able to get these.
Yeah. All right. For this first one, I'll tell you who said the quote.
Oh.
You've got to figure out who the quote is about.
I like
and
this
I
little
think
workaround,
I think it'll be better.
I like this.
So the quote is, he's in a different mode right now. He's in investor mode. He's in Buffett mode at the moment, meaning Warren Buffett for those out here, those investor heads out there.
I mean, I think it's got to be about Shay.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I didn't even tell you who said it. It was Mark Daigneault that said it. So,
well, I mean, that feels very Mark quote-ish.
Yeah.
Mark is an excellent quote, and he's always really creative and thoughtful with a lot of those things. So I feel like I could have guessed it. I honestly don't remember him saying that one, but I feel like I could have picked that one out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think so. Where this stemmed from was a story that Mark was telling about a play in the third preseason game at Paycom Center where Shay, hadn't really gotten it going yet on offense, and Mark called a play for him. And as Shay is kind of coming up the court, he actually flipped the ball over to Josh Giddey, kind of signaling to Mark, like, it's cool. I'm all right. Like, let's get the rookie going. Let's get him some reps that he needs. And basically what Mark was saying there is, he's seen Chris Paul do that little maneuver where he's almost playing a little chess game with the coach to signal to him, like, I can work on getting some other guys involved too. And not in like a confrontational way, but just in like I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm good. I want to make sure I'm getting my other guys involved. What Mark said though is he's never seen a 23-year-old do that before.
I mean, to me, it so obviously speaks to Shay's maturity. One of the things that you hear so many people around the league rave about with him is his poise and composure and just his understanding. With the game on the floor, I think that kind of speaks for itself with the way that he has handled himself in big moments, big games. He's, even when he was playing with Chris Paul, SGA still was right there alongside him in terms of clutch scoring. So, just his demeanor is obviously that way. But I think what we're seeing, Gallo, is like how that has extended into his leadership role with the team. And even like, if you go back to media day, when Shay was asked a lot of questions about leadership and, he's now the guy making the money. He's the guy that's the franchise face. And he sort of deflects all that. It's like he doesn't really – and it's not like he doesn't want it. To me, it's just this internal confidence that, like, yes, I know that. But, like, my style of leadership, the way that I really want to kind of put my imprint on this team is to make it a collective. Like, I don't want it to be my team. I want it to be my group that we're all connected and working together. And to me, the buy-in that you see from a guy like Shea, it really sets an incredible tone for this team as they kind of embark on this developmental mindset. When you have a guy like him that is willing to do exactly like that and invest himself in some of the other players, because to me that's the next step in really unlocking another level for Shea, is for him to elevate teammates.
Right.
Because we know we can score.
Right.
We know we can pass. We know we can do a lot of things. But now can he raise the floor? Can he raise the level of his teammates when he's out there? And he's clearly got that mindset.
And to your point, like people that are put into this position are rightly provided with like privileges, but also responsibilities.
Yep.
And Shea is focusing on the responsibilities, which at 23 years old, I dare you to find many other 23-year-olds that would be focusing on the responsibilities rather than the privileges of the position that he's in.
Right. And, I know that there are a lot of people that look at like, the Thunder's situation strategy right now, and they kind of stress about Shea. What's Shea going to think about all this? I don't think you have to worry about it. I think Shea is completely invested in exactly what's going on. He is all in with this team, and he's not only like going along with it, he's leading through it. Like he is fully committed to what the Thunder are trying to accomplish, because he recognizes there's an opportunity to really do something special here, and he wants to be at the forefront of it.
He's in a perfect position. I can't get over Mark's analogies that he uses. They're phenomenal. I mean, we were talking about Warren Buffett yesterday when talking about Josh Giddey. He compared him to a quarterback and a
running back in back-to-back answers. He said he's got to get that sorted out.
Got to figure that one out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're doing like the run pass option there.
That's exactly right. There you go. Wildcat formation.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Here's my quote. It helps having a really competitive and tough environment to practice in, and guys want to make each other better. That really translate to on the floor game nights. Longer quote.
Oh boy.
This one, I feel like anybody could
I was going to
say
say like, let me just pick a player. I feel like somebody might have said that.
I feel like, and this is coming from a young player, new to the team, who is picking up on some things pretty quickly.
Young player new to the team. I'm going to say Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
You're on the right track, but not him.
Nope.
Another rookie with a name that starts with J.
Oh. Josh Giddey.
Yes, this is about Josh Giddey. And it's less about like who said it. And for me, it spoke to the fact that the young guys are getting integrated with this team, and they're picking up on the core identity that this team wants to have and the chemistry that they're trying to build. And there are a lot of factors that have gone into the chemistry that we've seen so far from this group. Starting the preseason at the Blue Ion, that was obviously a huge chemistry builder. And then how many times have we heard from Mark how competitive practices are? I feel like that just plays a huge factor in getting this young group with a lot of new faces playing together really well.
That is a great point, Paris, because I think that is something that can often be overlooked with young teams. Of course, they're going to go through some growing pains, make some mistakes, but like the energy level at the developmental phase is like next level. And, we saw that way back, 15 years ago with this team, but like just the eagerness to learn, the eagerness to crunch film, to get in there and to get extra shots and to do everything else. Because not only are these guys like, want to make, want to improve and make this team better, but they also want to like begin their NBA careers. And they're so invested in that. And also, they're younger and they're healthier and they don't have like the scars of, 10, 12 years in the NBA and the 82 game grind wearing on them. The mileage isn't quite there yet. But, one sidebar, Paris, that makes me, that I can't help but think about is, we talk about the maturity of Shea. For Josh Giddey, he just turned 19. When you sit there and you hear him talk in a lot of availabilities, it is striking how poised he is.
Yeah.
And, his demeanor too, and just the way that he has kind of stepped in, he's been really quotable. He said some really smart things, but he just kind of has a general confidence.
Definitely.
As a young player that I don't think you see a lot for somebody sitting down and talking to, professional media. I think for him, it's those little things I think that you can really see where he's such a great fit for this franchise, just because, as he kind of grows and develops on the floor, I think that he's really going to grow and develop off it as well.
And he's got the professional experience already coming in at 19 years old. He's played in the NBL. He's played with already so many NBA players who are already in this league. And so he knows what it means to be a professional. I think that's what we're kind of seeing translate in for him. But one thing I wanted to point out, you talked about just the energy that this group has. Gallo, you and I are at practice. We see these guys afterwards. And yesterday, there was just a group of guys playing one-on-one, right? These guys just want to get after it. They're picking and choosing which guys they want to go at, and they want to get those extra reps, and they want to be in the gym. That just says a lot about this group, I think.
Yeah, it's that classic Thunder drill, one-on-one, mid-post. You only get 2 dribbles, and you got to try to get a shot off.
Yep.
And the portion that I was watching intently was Lou Dort was holding serve there and doing pretty well. And he knocked down a couple really nice mid-range jumpers. But you're exactly right, Paris. The work ethic is there. The want to just be in the gym. But I just going back to the rookies a little bit. I wanted to touch on just. I think for Thunder fans, this is going to be an interesting sort of thought experiment as we go into the season. The last 2 rookie classes for the Thunder were Darius Baisley, who had taken an entire year off from playing organized basketball before he got to the NBA. And I always like to talk to Darius about incoming rookies because he has such a unique perspective on sort of where they are compared to where he came into the league. And it's really interesting to hear him talk about that. And then last year, it's Poku and Teo, who had no anything. They had no summer league.
This is their rookie year. Let's be fair to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you've got this class of 4 guys coming into the 2021 rookie class. 3 of them played at really high-level college programs, Villanova, Florida, Maryland. The other guy played professionally in the NBL, who in a really good league. And guys like Darius and others have just said, this crew, given their experience being able to be, in summer league training camp, the run-up to preseason, a full training camp that's not 1-on-0, with one coach and everybody masked up and everything. Right. Like, it's just different for these guys. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this rookie class unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, it also, like you were pointing out, Gallo, it makes you kind of sympathize with the rookie class from last year.
Yeah.
Like some of the challenges that they had to face. And that's what I joke, but this truly almost does feel like their rookie season, the 2020 class. Just no summer league, no training camp, no practice. I mean,
right.
Mark Daignault's talked about it, but I mean, they might have had 5 practices, like real practices, all of last season. I mean, it just wasn't something possible. So for this group, I think it just provides them an opportunity to really hit the ground running. And, the ability to kind of dig in and develop throughout the year. I think one of the really interesting things with players a lot of times is, especially young players, is kind of that developmental process is where you're waiting to see these like big leaps. And but if you're watching them throughout the season, you're watching them game by game by game, those developmental steps are so incremental that sometimes, it was a great point that, Poku, he goes to the G League bubble last year. And when he comes back, he looks like a new player because he goes away and then he comes back. So, I think for players this year, we're going to see those incremental steps happen a lot more because of the opportunity they have to practice, which seems like an important part of being a professional athlete is practice.
I mean, how overlooked was that, though? I mean, the fact that there was just a condensed season last season, but you think about there weren't a ton of breaks between games for those hard practices to occur. So that I mean, it's a really, really good point. Okay, you can say that again. That was so fun. That's why we love that segment. But there's one more.
I got one more. Okay.
Yeah,
one more.
Another game. Okay, I want 1 for 2, and you can say that again.
Yes. We're gonna keep tabs all season long, Royce. We're gonna see what your final
going
score
for a 50, 40, 90.
Yeah.
It's 50, 40, 90.
If you get those splits, you're gonna be in rare company. I'll tell you what.
All right, Gallo, you go first.
Okay, so this is a game called Name That Dude. Okay. It's where we take a line from the box score and we quiz you and see if you can figure out who it is.
You have to name that dude.
Okay.
This is from the game against Denver up in Tulsa, second night of a back-to-back. So this can eliminate a few guys that didn't play in that game from your internal calculus that you've got going there. This guy had 9 points and 11 rebounds in 24 minutes.
Oh, 9 points and 11 rebounds.
And it was a sneaky 9 and 11. I'll tell you that much.
That's what I'm gonna. Man, I feel like I want to answer Jeremiah Robinson Earl for
That's your fault.
But it isn't him.
I think it is not Jeremiah Robinson Earl, but
it just feels like such a JRE line.
It's not a bad guess because he's a guy that's gonna do that. Like when he gets full on rotation minutes, I don't know if it'll be 9 and 11, but he's going to put up those types of nights here and there, just given his skill set and his burliness. Okay, Paris, do you know who this is?
9 and 11. No. Ooh, see, my first guess would have been Jeremiah too. This is problematic.
This is Gabby Deck.
Wow. See, I mean, that is like To call it a sneaky 9-11, I mean, like that might as well just be like his nickname.
Yeah,
He's like
that's a
sneaky
good
box
point.
score. He's a sneaky stat line.
It's like
guy.
a stealth fighter night.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's a high energy, high motor player that he's always kind of tracking down an extra offensive rebound here and there, and he's really good on the defensive boards too. Great cutter. So you just kind of don't notice it so much. Like the stats accumulating. So I should have thought that. I should have guessed that.
The reason I picked him out also was because, just it was kind of down to the wire amongst a number of players on who would make the final cut on this roster. And Gabriel Deck was one of the guys that did stay. And he factors to be kind of an interesting piece that they can go to this season, given his size, given the cutting. I mean, that was one of the most impressive things that I saw in that performance at up in Tulsa was he just kind of had this feel for a couple backdoor cuts that were really just slicing right through the middle of the lane. And those to me are sort of the most impressive cuts. Cutting baseline is one thing when the guy's got his head turned and isn't looking the right way. But if you know exactly when to go from like the angle or the slot and to be able to slice right down the middle of the lane and catch and finish. That was just impressive to me. It's like a clear understanding that he's been a pro.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that knows how to play. And you can just tell it. He's a high IQ player. We saw it last year in the limited time that he had with the team. But, I don't think he does like one thing that's great, but he does a lot of things really well. And, when you watch him play, I imagine him in lineups with SGA, with Josh, and just making those smart cuts and picking out really clever moments to find space on the floor. He's a player that you can easily imagine, even though he was, he might be kind of perceived to be a into the roster player, but you can see him on the floor late in the game and making a critical play because I think he's a really flexible player in terms of positionality. You can post him up a little bit. That's what we saw a lot of him do last year is that he's kind of he plays bigger than his actual size. I think he can guard multiple positions. So, I think he's just kind of one of those guys that just can kind of like make plays and come up with winning moments within a game. I think that can be something really important for a young team like this.
I just remember Mark throwing him out there on Zion Williamson, like first time playing for the
That
Thunder.
was hilarious.
He's like, all right, go on out there and like deal with Zion.
It's
on
like
the
you're
post.
coming over to the NBA, and it's like first thing you do is you see like the physical specimen in the NBA
Definition.
But it was like no hesitation from Gabby Deck in that moment,
and he held his own. Too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
he really defended him well throughout that game.
And Mark always says about Gabby, there's just a great toughness to his game, and I think that exactly is the perfect definition of it is toughness.
Yeah, toughness physically and mentally. I mean, I think that is something that you can't really teach with a lot of guys is that, I don't know that many professional NBA players are going to like back down from a challenge like that. I think that they all want to do it. But not only did he embrace it, but like I said, he really excelled and did really well. And there were moments where Zion, kind of overpowered him physically, but it wasn't like, Gabby Deck was going to back down and not stand back up and try to defend him the next possession. So that it's funny you point that out, Gallo, because that game really was that was kind of comical to me when I saw him out there. Like, wow, welcome to the NBA, man.
I've got to give a shameless plug. I recently wrote a feature story called "Good for Gabriel" that's on OKCThunder.com, and it really details his backstory growing up in Argentina. He comes from a very, very small town, and sort of some of his stories that loom larger than legend in some ways about the dirt ground that he was playing basketball on, and the rim on his basketball hoop was made out of a tractor wheel. I mean, some of these details you'll definitely want to check out to learn a little bit more about Gabby.
He's like the Argentinian Jimmy Chitwood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was a great stat line. Got me too. I didn't even know. Okay, that's sneaky 9-11. All right, here's the next one. Also played in the Tulsa game.
Okay.
All right, here you go. 8
Important
points,
context.
2 blocks, 2 steals, 2 assists,
wow,
and 2 rebounds.
Man, we're edging up towards the 5x5 right there.
This game is going to be extra hard in the preseason when like 15 guys play.
I know it's like
during the regular season when we play this, it'll be easier.
Think all over the floor.
All over the floor. I mean, honestly, I thought,
literally and metaphorically, there were a couple times in this game where he was like, crashing onto the floor and like falling and slipping. And
man, it's like amazing. Like when you get so on the spot, it's like
Yeah.
you have these moments like I can't even think of one Thunder.
what are their names? What are their names?
Who
Yeah.
plays for the Thunder?
Okay. Rookie.
I thought I was gonna say Aaron Wiggins.
Yes,
That's
right.
yes,
I just
exactly.
I remember him diving for a couple loose
Yeah.
balls.
Yes. I chose Aaron for this one because throughout preseason, we all remember that one game against Charlotte where he just came out in a burst, 12 points, 7 minutes, just 3 threes in that game, I believe. And then kind of quiet stats over the next 2 games. And then he has a really solid performance like this where he just shows out defensively. And that's where Aaron hangs his hat is even though he didn't have those eye-popping stats in those other 2 games, you felt his presence on the floor, especially on the defensive end.
He's such an interesting player. And, when you're a late second-round pick, a lot of people don't really know what to think of you and, like, what kind of opportunities you're going to get. Obviously, in this situation, I think he's going to get an opportunity to play,
Yeah.
which I'm sure he's really excited about. It's a great situation for him. But to your point, Paris, he really kind of proved himself in preseason games where not only did I think that he outshot what people's perception of was him, he was a knockdown shooter. In catch and shoot situations, he had a couple off the dribble. But I think what you're saying, Paris, is really critical. Is the game against the Nuggets in Tulsa? It wasn't like it was a good game because he hit 4 or 5 threes.
Right.
That's the type of stuff that like screams at you, and you notice. You see the ball go in the basket, and then you determine, oh, he played well.
It can be distorting.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, but this was more of like the full scope of what you need a player like him to do. Because, as you get into regular season games, and if he can find a role within this team, yeah, you're going to love those games where he steps up and he goes 3 of 5 from 3. But like where he's going to make his mark on a team with guys like SGA, with Lou Dort, with Derek Favors, with Josh Giddey, is doing these little things, doing the dirty work stuff. And so to me, that's such an important element is that, to kind of get a sense of he is kind of a 5-tool player in a sense that he can do a lot of different things.
And if you're thinking about team building, like not to project out too far, but 3 years from now, he'll be 25. And 3 years from now, who knows kind of where this Thunder organization is in terms of its, some of these young guys growing and developing. But like, this is the type of guy that you could definitely use on a team that's on the rise.
For sure.
Like that 8th, 9th guy that's like really connecting your group and like
fluid
being,
positionally, can defend multiple guys. It's not just a Thunder trend, but just a league-wide trend is that you're looking for guys that can just do multiple things.
Right.
And that there's really kind of no deficiency within their game that's like glaring, where it's like, we can't play him. He can't do that. And that's what, Aaron Wiggins is just another guy that just kind of has an ability to play, and ability to do a lot of different things, can handle it, can shoot it, can pass it, can defend pretty well, can rebound. So, like you said, Gallo, I think that these are the types of guys that have an opportunity to stick, to make an impact and to kind of hang around and kind of make their mark on a team that is, hopefully in the next few years on the rise.
Right. As you said, like, do you have 8 or 9 guys that can't be played off the floor?
Right.
And he seems like the type of guy just from his athletic profile, and if he continues to make strides from a skill standpoint, then that's not going to be possible.
Yep, and coach said that he earned the minutes that he has on the floor, and he's making the most out of them. I want to talk about his mentality because that's the one thing that stands out. We've talked about it with the rookies too. They just have a good head on their shoulders, and they understand. I think you talked about this earlier, Royce, that if you're a rookie with the Thunder right now, you're in a really great position to make the most out of your opportunity.
Yeah.
You are going to be given so many opportunities to grow and develop your game, and you can see Aaron taking advantage of it right now. He's got the raw skills, clearly. And so now it's about taking advantage of the opportunity of being in an NBA game on an NBA floor surrounded by really high talent.
The way you get better, and we saw this last year with last year's team, there were so many opportunities for young players to play, is to play.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to take those bigger steps in terms of development if you're only doing it in practice, if you're only doing it in some 2-on-2 drills or 1-on-1 or whatever it might be. Like when you can get out there and cut your teeth and play, that's when you take significant strides forward. So, like you said, Paris, that this is an opportunity for so many players to get those chances to take steps developmentally. That in other situations, they just wouldn't have that ability to do.
You could have faked a million live hits in front of your mirror, but
Right.
it wasn't.
Lights come on.
Right? But doing all of those courtside
Right.
all over the years was what prepared you to handle March 11th, 2020.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah. If you can, I don't know that anything could have really prepared me for that night.
Were any of us ready?
But you weren't. You didn't shake in
Right,
that moment.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of like getting reps with anything is that you can try to simulate it as much as you want to, but there's nothing that can prepare you for 4 on the shot clock and a defender closing out at you, and you need to knock down this shot. Like there's just nothing that can simulate that in a practice or or a pickup game or whatever.
Right.
2 for 2, Royce. That's pretty good.
All right.
Oh, sorry, 2 for 4. Wow.
2 for 4.
Sorry, 2
Well,
for 4.
2 for 2 on that one, right?
Yeah.
No, or did I?
No, you
I
guessed
missed Gabby
JRE.
Drake.
Yeah, you guessed JRE.
Well, either way, you've got your
50%.
50. You've
Okay,
got your 50
okay.
split there.
Okay, that's good enough.
You're off the hot seat
my
from
my
the rest of the
effective field goal
podcast.
percentage is looking pretty good.
It is.
All right, that was a lot of fun. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
COOP Ale Works is the proud sponsor of Thunder Basketball Universe, brewer of fan favorites F5 IPA and 99-calorie Ice Chest IPA. You'll find those and many more COOP beers at retailers across Oklahoma. Learn more at coopaleworks.com.
Regular season is right around the corner, and the Thunder kicks things off on the road with a 2-game road trip starting in Utah and then hitting the road to Houston. So this is a really good opportunity for us. We've got Royce here. We're going to talk about some of the things that we're looking forward to heading into the regular season, taking some of the things that we learned from the preseason training camp and kind of looking ahead a little bit. So Royce, you're our guest. We'll let you go first.
Thank you. I have the honors.
Yes, you do.
What are you looking forward to with this group?
I mean, I can't help but be super stoked to see the rookies get out there and play.
Yeah.
And this is a sizable rookie class for the Thunder. Obviously, with what we saw from Josh Giddey in the preseason, super interested to see how he plays with heavy NBA minutes, playing against NBA starters for an extended period of time. Again, preseason is preseason, and he looked really good. And did a lot of compelling and interesting things that has a lot of people excited. But let's see how that translates in NBA action. And obviously, there's going to be ups and downs. That's something Mark Daigneault has been very transparent about. And nobody is going to ride too high after a good game, or nobody's going to get too low. This is all a marathon for a young player like Josh Giddey, and that goes for Trey Mann, Aaron Wiggins, JRE, the entire rookie class. So, you're going to have these moments where your eyebrow goes up and you say that was something, and then there's going to be games where there's 6 or 7 turnovers and they make mistakes, and you cannot ride that wave because the Thunder aren't going to do it. Mark Daigneault's not going to do it. I think we've seen from a lot, the rookies that we're talking about, there's a maturity and composure within them that they're not going to get too down either. But I'm just fired up to see how these rookies look, how they play, specifically Josh, and maybe to see a fancy pass or two.
There's now 100 minutes or so on film of Josh Giddey that was not there
Right.
prior, and
those 5 minutes of summer league were just not enough for us.
Need more.
and with that, kind of with that in mind, like Josh is going to hit an interesting point at some juncture this season where there is enough tape out there on him that opposing teams
Good
are
point, Gallo.
scouting him, and the big thing for rookies is how do you combat that? How do you counteract when teams are taking away what you're excellent at and what you're really trying to get to? Can you still get to those things, or can you kind of subvert them in other ways and manipulate them to get something good for your team when something's being taken away from you?
That's a great point because, I even in just the limited preseason games, you can already kind of pick out some of the pet moves that Josh likes, a couple of the crossover, little kind of some of the dekes that he does with his shoulders. And those are things that defenders are going to study intently on tape and start to pick up on those things and anticipating him. Oh, he likes to go right to left when he does this.
Right.
And so like you're saying, how does a young player like him now counteract that? And to me, I think that's such an interesting element of this is that, it's like when you see a pitcher the fourth time through the lineup,
Right.
It's like, I've seen that curveball before and I'm ready for it now. And so, how do you combat that? How do you come back at it? And, lucky for Josh Giddey, he's got 82 games, which is a lot of games to figure that stuff out.
I could not believe that Mike Malone, the Denver head coach, had his team picking Giddey up full court, starting in like the second quarter of that game up in Tulsa. That to me showed a level of respect that like you just don't often see given to rookies in the 4th preseason game on the second night of a back-to-back. That they felt the need to like, we got to go do something to disrupt this guy.
Right. Well, and I mean, to Malone's credit, the night before he saw Josh Giddey, put the game away, against his starters too,
Right.
by the way.
Right.
Like the Nuggets put their
taking notes.
frontline guys
Yeah.
out there. And so, to me, that was one of those moments with Josh Giddey where I kind of raised an eyebrow a little bit because he's going against one of the Western Conference's premier teams. And you guys were sitting right there too. Mike Malone wanted to win that game.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Like he was coaching, he was mad. He made a couple of substitutions. He was frustrated. He was trying to motivate his guys. They were using that one kind of as a regular season simulation. And Josh Giddey put him to bed.
Right.
And to me, that's the sort of stuff that makes you kind of go, that was interesting. I look forward to seeing that in the regular
Dropped a
season.
stop and pop jumper in
Yeah.
right over Jokic's head. That was an eyebrow raiser for sure.
For sure.
The one thing I'm always interested in with the rookies, and this goes for all four of them, is their off the floor kind of acclimation into the league. And one thing that I've just been asking about throughout preseason was just their routines. How are they learning how to handle back-to-backs and travel? What's that going to look like for them? And I remember Isaiah Roby saying that it took me all my rookie season to get used to travel, to get used to getting my body ready for 82 games. That takes an entire season. And that's the other angle of this that I'm curious about with the rookies. It's just kind of like how they get into the flow of an NBA lifestyle.
People kind of overlook the fact that these are young players, and simple things like what time is practice tomorrow is an important element to this. I mean, we just saw it. Another player, I can't think of who it was, missed a flight. A veteran player,
Right.
And it's not something that is unusual in the NBA. But imagine being 19, 20 years old, where you're trying to say, "This is my fourth game in 7 nights, and where am I going? What city am I in?" So I mean, that's a good point, Paris. Another thing I would say too.
That was Marcus Smart, by
Marcus
the way,
Smart,
from the
that's
Celtics.
who it was. I couldn't remember who it was. Another player, and Gallo, I only think of this because Gallo pointed it out in the Tulsa game against the Nuggets. But Trey Mann took a nice step in that game, I thought.
Yes.
And a big focal point for him in this preseason that we've heard from Mark Daigneault is embrace the three-point shot. Don't shy away from it. Trey Mann, I think, is a little bit by nature a setup guy. It's kind of what I think he wants to do. Wants to get into the paint, kind of probe the defense, hit floaters and stuff like that. But he's a really good shooter. And we saw it against the Nuggets in the Tulsa game. There was some isolation step-back threes. And I think that he's got a chance to really be pretty special with some of those kind of step-back threes. And that's such a weapon in today's NBA. You see it with guys like Damian Lillard and how good they can be at just kind of rocking a defender to sleep and getting the space to get that kind of that three off over a bigger defender. And we saw a couple of those against the Nuggets in Tulsa. And so I'm pretty interested to see how that kind of grows in his game.
It used to be that a dunk was the most demoralizing play for a defense, and now it's that step back three.
It's the modern day poster. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Really good point. And I also want to talk about Jeremiah Robinson Earl real quick if we're talking about the rookies, because think about all of the different situations that he's been put in throughout preseason. He has started at center against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oof.
He has
Brooke Lopez.
he literally
4 inches on him.
jump ball
Yeah.
against Brooke Lopez. And then he has played alongside Derek Favors as kind of like the four and just a bunch of different lineups. Gallo, you did a great article that goes through all of the different lineups. And he has kind of taken all of those in strides. All of the rookies really have been put in so many different situations, just not even the fact that they're coming into the NBA and it's a different lifestyle. But there's a lot of information coming at them right now. And so seeing throughout the regular season which areas they start to take strides in, for Jeremiah, is it, being the solid five out there? Is that kind of where he finds his niche? Or maybe it's playing alongside Favors. I don't know. We don't know. But kind of, I'll be interested to see kind of what they sort of lean towards in those sort of situations.
Well, I mean, and that's like you're saying, Paris, that's kind of the makeup within the entire Thunder roster. And Jeremiah is a good example of it. Is you can't just do one thing. You can't just be a five and that's all I do. I only guard fives.
Right. Right.
And you've got to be able to play multiple positions, do multiple things well, both on defense and offense. And I think that's where JRE, even in the preseason, was really kind of showcasing that, he's a high motor guy, high intelligence guy, comes from a really good college program. He's a great connector. I think that you've used that phrase, Gallo, of he connects one side of the floor to the other with his ability to kind of take the ball. Billy Donovan used to talk about that a lot. Is you want a transporter of the basketball, somebody that can get the ball from one side of the floor to the other. And so often the 4 and 5 man is right there in the middle. So you don't want the ball to just stick there and be stuck. You want them to be able to pick out a cutter or find somebody open on the wing. And Jeremiah clearly has that ability. He's got great vision and great feel and instincts for a big man. But, we've seen elements of his game. He can step out and he can shoot it a little bit. He's hit a couple threes. But also, he's just a hard playing guy. He's big, he's physical. And so whether it's playing the 4, whether it's playing the 5, whether there's some bizarre lineup that Mark Daigneault wants to roll out there because he likes to do, pretty bold things within roster lineups. Maybe he goes out there and you play 3 big guys at one time or something. I think JRE could be useful in that way.
I want to pick up on the word instinctual that you used, because for rookies, as they're being delivered mountains of information, like Paris is mentioning, the one thing that they've got to be able to do is like think in between games and think while they're on the bench, but play instinctually when they're on the floor. And that's going to be crucial, because if you're trying to think and play at the same time, sometimes that can be paralyzing especially for young players. And so he seems like the kind of guy that can navigate that. But, the prime example of a guy that thinks in between plays or thinks, in between games is Lou Dort. Mark Daigneault said the other day, he's a visceral competitor. He's like in the wild out there just as a competitor. And that's like such an incredible quality about Lou, that he can just truly be in the moment. And that's a huge thing for young guys to learn.
Yeah, because if you're just playing on instincts, I mean, of course you want to be prepared and you want to do, stay within your role to a degree. But like, this is why Lou Dort not only made an impact in the NBA right away when he stepped in and started playing minutes because of the injuries the team had a couple years ago, and everybody could see it because it was just, he was making plays. He just had a nose for the basketball. And if you're doing that sort of stuff and you're out of position every now and then and you kind of mess up here and there, that stuff can be cleaned up later on. But like, if you're just kind of involved, if you're in the mix, that's the type of stuff that can really kind of make an impact for your team. And then you can kind of sort out some of that other stuff later.
Yeah.
Be where your feet are.
That's right. There you go.
That's all about
That's
that.
a big-time OKC Blue callback right there.
Sure is. Hey, Lou Dort. That's where you got to start.
That's
so
true.
it makes a lot of sense. All right, Nick, you're next. What are you looking forward to?
Okay, well, throughout the preseason, the 4 games, I couldn't help but just think to myself, like, there's a guy that we haven't seen yet that would definitely be in the mix here for this team, and that's Kenrich Williams. Mark Daigneault kind of officially stated, like, Kenrich is coming off the bench for this team. He's going to be a second unit stabilizer. And I really think to that game up in Tulsa, we talked about it, but that second unit that played through all of the fourth quarter and into overtime, they had some incredible moments, but they also, had a few times where they went off the rails a little bit. And you could just imagine Kenrich Williams being out there and being a guy that's like, okay, like, we're going to settle in here. We're going to dig in on a defensive possession, and we're not going to let Marcus Howard go off for his 30th three of the night. And we're going to get a better shot than like a top of the key 3-pointer that it feels desperate when there's 1 minute and 15 seconds still left in the game. And so I'm really curious to see how a guy that has obviously earned so much respect in the locker room, shot 44% from 3 last year, and has the defensive chops and really no fear on the floor, how he's going to factor into these lineups.
And again, somebody that can do multiple things.
Right.
Even last year he played some point guard for crying out loud. So, I think that he's somebody that you can put in so many different lineups. It's very easy to imagine him in closing crunch time lineups, whether playing some position. I don't even I don't know what it might be the 4, it might be the 1. I don't know what he might necessarily be called upon to do in terms of, especially on the defensive end, because he can guard basically all 5 positions. And so he is somebody that you can kind of forget about pretty easily because you didn't see him in the preseason, but he was such a solid role player last year. Somebody that really reinvented his career. From somebody that was in New Orleans, was kind of known as somebody that couldn't really shoot. He's always been a hustling, hard-playing guy. He's earned his nickname. Always been somebody that has a nose for the basketball, does the little things. But in OKC last year, he started putting together some of that other stuff, some of that high-level stuff, where now you become the very enviable phrase of he's a two-way player. And you don't shoot 44% from 3 for an entire season by accident.
Right.
You've
got
got
good ones.
You've got to you got to take good shots, and you've got to kind of reinvent yourself as a shooter. And so he's got a ton of confidence. I think he's going to be huge for the second unit, like you said, Gallo. I think he's going to be such an important player for that group.
And he works hard. Gallo, I mean, you brought up this story so many times about how in the offseason prior to last season, he was in the gym with his wife just getting shots up. He was just finding ways to get into the gym and put in work. And so he was putting in work during this offseason and was looking forward to getting ready. So he's going to be ready to come in. He's going to bring the energy that he always does. That's Skinny Hustle.
Royce, has a son help him out with his stand-ups and his hits. You got to use whatever you have at your disposal to get
advantage
better in
of
this
everything.
league. Yeah.
All the tools that you can kind of pull out right there. You got to take advantage of them all.
I love it. All right, let's round things out. This is the thing that I'm looking forward to. too. Royce, you talked about the rookies. I'm looking forward to the second-year players. And here's why. Teo and Poku didn't have training camp. They did have a training camp, but kind of, sort of, not really. And then they didn't have summer league last season. And Mark Daigneault has said how much respect he has for those two players and the strides that they were able to take last season, even without those sort of opportunities. And obviously, they did get to play a lot last season. And so coming into this season, they both have really made gains physically, but also they have all that experience from last season to add to their arsenal. If we're talking about second-year players, I'm also including Isaiah Roby into the mix. I know that he is a third-year player technically.
All you fact checkers out there, calm down.
Yeah,
I see it right here. I know.
Well,
but
actually, he's a third-year player, Paris.
his first season, he was injured, played only 3 games. And so last season was really his rookie season. By his own admission, he has said this. And so think of all the experience that he got last year, going up against Nikola Jokic and Vucevic and all the playing time he was able to get. And so Mark has said that all of these guys look a year older coming into this season, and I'm really looking forward to see how that plays out in the regular season.
Yeah, it's a great call because, even with Teo, you talk about physically, it jumped out to everybody at Summer League how much bigger he was. He had some guns on him.
It's crazy what happens when you see these guys in person and you can actually lay eyes on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, you've been doing some work there. But, with Poku, we saw it, he had some ups and downs early in the preseason, but it all started to kind of come together for him a little bit against the Nuggets when he had a little more opportunity, a little more room to breathe, a little more opportunity to kind of make mistakes within the flow of a game. And with Isaiah Roby, he's always been such an interesting player.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he, for a guy his size to be able to rebound and run the floor on his own, he can lead a fast break after pulling down a defensive board. Pretty solid shooter. He's a high energy, high character player. For somebody like him to kind of fit into this roster again, he just fits this formula. He can just do so many different things. He's not a one position player, and you can see him in so many different lineup combinations. I think he played some games at the 3 last year, even didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, he played some small forward. Started some games. At
There's
the
a lot
5.
of a lot of exploration.
Yeah,
last
there
year,
was a
Royce.
lot of experimentation, a lot of exploration. So I will not fact check you, Paris.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I feel like these 3 guys that you mentioned are in very interesting and different stages of their player development.
Yes.
Like Teo is very much in an incremental improvement, linear growth curve spot where you can just tell that he's going to get a little bit better each time that he steps on the floor. With Poku, you see that the skills are there and it's about harnessing them. And then, obviously over the summer, he kind of got his body into a spot where, he can be out there competing for 38 minutes and, still be in the mix and still doing things effectively like he was at the end of that game up in Tulsa. But it's about harnessing that and making sure that the competitiveness and sort of, that he's in the game at all times. And then with Roby, it's really about becoming a more efficient player. On offense, he's got to limit the turnovers. And then on defense, he's got to be able to guard up to his position if he's at the 5.
One of the things with Teo that's so interesting that you point out, Gallo, about the incremental improvement is that he comes in, he didn't feel like a 19-year-old.
No.
With his kind of poise and composure. He felt like a guy that was in his 6th or 7th NBA season, that he was just oh, who's this nice veteran backup point guard that the Thunder
was
signed?
never rattled,
free
never
agency.
shook up.
Yeah, it was so, he is the type of player you almost forget that he's a young 20-year-old in the NBA and that he's got room to grow himself. Mark Daigneault's talked some about that. He played a lot of straight point guard, but he also had some really good moments when he was playing as kind of a combo guard alongside SGA when he was somebody off the ball, spot up shooting. He really kind of developed a little bit over the course of the season as a shooter. So he's an interesting player that I think sometimes kind of gets overlooked as one of the young guys on this roster that can take steps forward because he just feels like a 6 or 7 year NBA veteran with the way that he plays.
Yeah, one thing where the stats just tell you the wrong thing is Teo got better and grew last year as his assist to turnover ratio got worse. That was what they wanted out of him.
Right.
They wanted to see him be able to hit the gas a little bit more.
Right.
They wanted to see him be more aggressive. And so
that comes with mistakes.
there are trade-offs.
Yeah.
Definitely. And because of that, he looks so much more comfortable. Poku looks more comfortable. Isaiah looks more comfortable out there. So seeing them in a regular season, I'm really interested to see how that plays out for 82 games now instead of 72. Okay, those are the things that we're looking forward to going into the regular season. Gallo, I'm going to turn things over to you because we've got some news and notes heading into this regular season that you need to be on the lookout for as well.
Yeah, sure thing. So basically, especially compared to last year when there were some lingering injuries, I think about like a guy like Ty Jerome. This year, the team had full availability at practice this past weekend, which is obviously a great sign. Vít Krejci, who is also a rookie to the team, he came over from the Czech Republic and played in Spain. He is fully cleared in terms of his visa issues. As we mentioned, Kenrich Williams, he's back and ready to go with the toe. And then two guys, Trey Mann, Isaiah Roby, they missed the second half of that game up in Tulsa. Those guys are all cleared and ready to play. So in sum, Mark Daigneault's going to have a lot of interesting decisions to make in terms of the rotation come opening night at Utah.
Yeah. And if you want more information, if you want an exhaustive, just kind of like everything you need to know written down for you, Nick Gallo has done the work for you. All you need to do is go to OKCThunder.com. He has got an amazing season preview up and running. Everything you need to know about every guy on this roster, the offense, the defense, overview. Nick's got you covered. Go take a look at that before that first Utah game. You will love it. It's going to be great. Okay, that's everything for heading into the regular season. Let's look back a little bit because we have something that blessed our timeline during the Tulsa game, and it made me, I could not stop smiling pregame because it was just such a wholesome thing. Obviously, this is the Thunder's first time returning to Tulsa since fall of 2019.
Right.
And a lot has happened between now and 2019. Tulsa.
Paris's head was still spinning. She was like on the job for like 3 weeks at that point.
That was my very first ever Thunder game that I covered. Yes, there was a lot happening that game. And since then, Tulsa has recognized the centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre that took place in 1921. The Thunder announced the start of their Thunder Fellows program, which is an incredible initiative that creates a pipeline for Black students in Tulsa to careers in sports, entertainment, and tech through curriculums and data and analytics. Incredible program. Those two worlds kind of merged in Tulsa, and it was so cool to see. And the guys really got in on it there. Yeah,
well, so the team, they had to navigate some issues there on the turnpike heading up to...
We all did.
Yeah. I know. Royce was like sweating getting into the building on time. Woo. How long did that
just
take
got
you,
out of the car and started
3 hours to get to Tulsa?
It's not supposed to take you 3 hours to get to Tulsa, but unfortunately it did.
The team, though, still managed to get to the location where Thunder Fellows is going to operate out of down there in the Greenwood District in Tulsa, and just got to kind of get a full immersion into what that program is going to be all about. And then, Paris, the kids that are in the program, they got off school, they got together with the program directors, and they actually came to the BOK Center, and they were able to be right near the court and interact with some of the Thunder players.
This program started only a couple of months ago, and so these kids are new into this program. It's the inaugural cohort, so this is their first time ever experiencing anything like this. And their regular programming, I mean, they're sitting in a classroom, and they're talking about, robotics and coding and stats and analytics, and then they get to go to a basketball game.
Right.
And meet Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort and Darius Baisley. Sam Presti went up there and said hey to them. Mark Daigneault. I can only imagine how great that must have felt for those kids. And even Shai, he was walking in with a great, awesome pair of shoes, as Shai does. And when he left, he was barefoot. That's
tremendous.
He gave the kids his shoes signed. And so you could tell, I mean, they were all wearing masks, but you could tell that they were grinning ear to ear.
Awesome.
So much fun. And that really blessed all of our timelines. If you want more information on that, I wrote a story. It's on OKCThunder.com. Go check it out. And with that wraps up our podcast today. As we mentioned, the Thunder opens up the regular season on the road against Utah October 20th. Be sure to tune in to Bally Sports Oklahoma. We've got you covered on the game broadcast, and then afterward, the team's heading to Houston. But until then, thank you so much for joining. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much to Royce for joining us today.
Great to be here.
And thank you so much to our producer. And until next time, Thunder up, and catch you later.